Um, Welcome to the SAASTA Africa's webinar. Today we are having Mr. Richman Mzwakhe Festile, and his topic is Indigenous Knowledge System can play a vital role in quality education, focusing more on education. Mr. Festile is a senior specialist responsible for monitoring natural science and technology in the Nelson Mandela District. He has a teaching experience of over 26 years and has been teaching in both the primary and high schools. Richman acquired his M.Ed in science education from the University of Western Cape. He presented in Eastern Cape SAASTA conference and in the Primary School Educators Conference in Scotland. Let us welcome Mr. Richman Mzwakhe Festile.
All right, thank you very much, Program Director. I am Richman Mzwakhe Festile. I am the Subject Advisor for Natural Sciences in the Nelson Mandela District. I will therefore just start sharing the presentation. Before I start, I'd just like to get the go-ahead if it is actually showing to everyone. So now I'm trying to share the screen. So you'll just indicate if it is visible to you so that I can continue.
It is visible, sir.
Yeah, okay. It's okay.
Thank you very much. Let me first thank you for inviting us as the Department of Education in your festival. SAASTA, I know it's one of the greatest festivals that ever been. I also wish to appreciate the relationship between SAASTA and the Department of Education. So we are very much pleased to have you in our midst. My presentation is basically on, I was actually told to talk about the learning the traditional way. Then obviously talking about learning the traditional way, you cannot leave out the indigenous knowledge systems. Hence, I will be talking about that as well. However, I must say it up front that I will not be dwelling much on IKS itself. If you look at the topic here, the topic says, how does indigenous knowledge systems play a role, rather a vital role, in instilling quality education? So before I even go further, I thought it wise to start and discuss what do we mean by quality education itself, so that you know what are you trying to instill, so that you know when you have achieved what you wanted to achieve, when you are rather incorporating this IKS. So basically here, I will be talking onto how or why should we incorporate, not really use it, but incorporate IKS in instilling this quality education. So by quality education, we talk about the system that creates an individual competence. So in this case, if we look at our education system, it is not only just to we want learners to be able to be on their own. To be on their own, we know that there are those learners who always want to rely on each other, but you can rely on each other to get the information. But when it comes to be on your own, you should be comfortable. So hence I'm saying, if a learner is at that stage of being able to be individually competent and confident, then it means that you have started a step of growing or of having a quality education. Also, we say it's a locally significant and culturally fitting. So if you talk quality education, it means that you're talking of the education that is significant to the location, to the locality where you the locality that you are serving, and also that fits into the culture that has actually brought you up and into the culture that you are actually growing within. So if that education serves that locality, the education that you have actually acquired serves that locality, and it also serves the culture that you are serving, the culture that you are part of, it means that that is the quality education that we are talking about. This education that we say it's quality education, we mean that it must be an education that values the IKS, that values the individual knowledge system. If this education is not valuing that, if this education is not appreciating that, if this education is not recognizing and acknowledging the IKS, then it means we have not given or imparted the quality education that we wish to do. We have not fulfilled our mission to have our learners to have this quality education. But we'll talk about that further when we get down our presentation. Also, this education, which we say is quality education, we mean it must also provide skills for entrepreneurship and employability. So if we educate our learners, we teach our learners, and at the end of the day is what is actually likely is happening right now, where most of people, of learners who have, or rather youth who has undergone the education but are not employable or can't even stand on their own to start their own businesses, then it means that we have not yet reached the quality education that we're talking about. So these are the 4 points that I thought of when I thought of quality education. However, when we talk of this, IKS, I must say upfront, it is a very vast topic. It's a vast topic. So that's why we won't even have time to talk about all of it. So the only thing, I'll only zoom to the topics or to the items that, or the concepts that we are going to fit on what I am actually talking about today. So I wish also to talk about, in my introduction, I'm talking about the alternative sources of knowledge. That is from Hudson, 2009, to broaden the curriculum. In fact, knowledge itself, or science knowledge, some other people would say it's an earth knowledge. It's a knowledge that we got from earth, which means from everything that has been produced by earth, then we tried and get something out of it. So hence we refer to it, or some people would like to refer to it as an earth knowledge. But these sources these alternative sources of knowledge are the traditional knowledge, the aboriginal knowledge, the indigenous knowledge, the traditional environment knowledge, the ethno-science knowledge, as well as indigenous science knowledge. These are the knowledge from which we got what we are talking about today. But you will notice that the systems that we are serving, or rather even throughout the world, these knowledge systems have not been recognized or by all the countries or by all the scientists. There's still lots of questions that are there, because some of these have not been tested. Now, coming closer to what I'm supposed to be doing here, it is our duty to see to it that CAPS is implemented. CAPS is Curriculum Assessment Policy Statement. So I'll be focusing on natural sciences and life sciences, of course, where it actually recognizes and affirms the critical role of Indigenous knowledge system in science education. So it means that it is our duty as subject advisors, as senior education specialists, to make sure that our teachers, in their teaching, they do incorporate IKS. They do involve the knowledge that has been learned a century of years ago, that has learned ancient time ago. So that is what we'll be talking about. Why should we incorporate this IKS? Now, even before we move further, we need now to understand what IKS is. What is this Indigenous knowledge systems that we are talking about? There are lots of definitions that or explanations that the scientists and the scholars talk about, or rather give, when it comes to IKS. But having looked at them, and one can also bring about his or her own. One of them is that it is the knowledge, understanding, and values that have been established by societies or even cultures with long histories of interaction with their natural environment. When you look at this, it really goes back to what I was talking about, where I said some define knowledge as the earth knowledge. In fact, they define science knowledge as the earth knowledge. So when you talk of the earth knowledge, it means that over the times, looking at the natural environment, what is actually surrounding ourselves and how we interact with this natural environment, we are actually developing, we are actually establishing a knowledge. And that knowledge, because it has been there forever, colleagues. It has been there forever. When you talk science knowledge, the knowledge that we are talking about right now, it's not the science that has just been developed. Even the people that are innovating, they are bringing new innovations. Those innovations are actually improvement of the knowledge that have gained long history or long centuries ago. Also, another definition that comes forth is that the system developed by individual people, indigenous peoples over generations to gain or to maintain a reliable understanding of the world around ourselves or around us. It means that the indigenous people, the people who actually, if we talk South African people, you can refer to the Khois, the Khoisans. Those we know that are some of the indigenous peoples in our country. So those are the people that have actually they have had their own knowledge of how to live then, of how they used the plants in that time, how they interacted with the animals in that time. And then that has been passed through time to us. And some of the knowledge that we're talking about is not written anywhere. It is not written anywhere. It has been passed along through the word of mouth. You know, it's for example, if you talk of some of the rituals and maybe traditional functions that we have in our cultures, there is nowhere in a book where you will see how these should be done. If you talk of the celebration of coming from the bush, for an example, or of introducing a child to the ancestors, those have not been written anywhere. But you will see that these cultures are continuing because they are passed through experience, through the word of mouth. And hence, when there are these functions, there will always be speakers, legends in the family that will be talking. And as they talk, you will see that these people know what they are talking about. And they will even take it back to so many years ago when they were not even there, but it's only their forefathers that have been there, and they learned from them how to do these rituals and functions that they are performing. So, and lastly, when we talk of this IKS, we actually refer to the recognition. So I should actually like this part was I included this one. It is the recognition and acknowledgement of the knowledge that has been passed down to us. And if we do not recognize that, obviously we would not be having this IKS. And if we are not acknowledging that, we wouldn't be able to talk about something that you do not recognize, something that you don't even acknowledge. So if you acknowledge that knowledge that you've learned from your parents, from your forefathers, then it means you are embracing IKS. And there is still a lot of discussion as far as the IKS is concerned. However, that's not what is on the table right now. I am Richman Mzwakhe Festile. All right. Another thing that, the core thing that I should be talking about today is why should we incorporate this IKS in sciences? The first point that I'm having there is that, in fact, I've already said that already, that science has been there since the ancient time. So it's not a new thing. And it actually means that the people in the if you can say in the Stone Age, or in whatever age that you can, Iron Age, those people were implementing science of that time. So science has been there. So we have learned, and it has been incorporated, in fact, especially by the corporate world. If you look at my last point there, it has been incorporated by them already. If you talk of pharmacy or how medicines have been developed, these medicines, you will see that they are from the plants that have been used by the Aboriginal people, the plants that have been used by the indigenous people, and those plants were just being crushed using stone, but now, because of the revolution that we have been involved in, now we're talking about the fourth industrial revolution. So through the evolution, so systems have been brought along to actually now process these plants into medicines, So also another point that we need not to ignore is that in indigenous science and modern sciences, those are the sciences that should not be colliding with each other. There should not be controversy about those two, because those two should actually complementing each other. The indigenous science and the modern science. They should be complementing each other. So if we say indigenous science should be complementing with modern science, so as the teaching, the traditional way of teaching should be complementing the modern way of teaching science itself. So we can't be teaching modern science without referring to the science that have been there ancient time ago. Okay. Now, my third point here, which talks about the Mantis people in Brazil and in Peru. Those people are the people that are known to be having their science, their own science. And this science that they have, it has been written in their own language. You know, so now and they have written it in their own language to protect it, to preserve it, because they know when the scientists of our time get their hands on it, they might actually use it and pretend it to be their own. But maybe there should really be a way to try and find that information, because that might be the information that will be assisting, that will be saving lives for that matter, that will be healing people. Maybe even the cure of the coronavirus that we are talking about today might be coming from the Brazil, from those Métis people that have got their information, their science information that they've kept and covered it with their language that we cannot access. Also, it should make learning easy. So if we incorporate IKS in the science, that should, in a way, make our learning easy, only if we apply it reasonably well. If you look at the way that we are doing our teaching these days, we really use our parents to help our learners, to help in teaching our learners. It has been now in the social media some few weeks or months ago, where actually people or parents are complaining that now it seems like teaching has been outsourced to parents now. It's parents that are teaching. Parents are doing homeworks now, especially now that we are in this new normal of coronavirus. There is lots of homework because there's no time now, not enough time for parents rather for teachers to do all what is supposed to be taught in the time frame that is given. So now if we incorporate this IKS, we are actually now trying to rope in the parents, as the parents are the source of the knowledge that we also want our learners to get. And even maybe some of our teachers do not have, but it is now in possession of the elders, in possession of our parents, of our learners' parents. So the only way that we can access that information is to let the parents assist our learners as well. You see, but I'm not saying that's the only way, but that can also work for us as teachers. Also, common approach. IKS, it's a common approach where we know that we always, when we even started teaching, we always start with the prior knowledge. You need, before you even start teaching a topic, at times we would want to do a baseline test to check what or how much do these learners know about the concept that you are about to teach, you know? So you want their prior knowledge. So the prior knowledge will guide you into how you are going to approach the topic, because you know now what these learners know about what you're going to teach about and what is it that they do not know. So if you use that information it's going to assist you to going forward teaching the topic. So basically also it means that another way that this IKS can assist us, it is in approaching the topics, the scientific topics that we are going to be teaching. The last one is the one that I talked about, where I talk about the corporate world that already use this IKS, and the researchers in their new innovations. It is very much rare that you will have a researcher or a scientist will bring something that is totally out of this world, that has never been there. Most of the times, it is actually looking back at what has been there and now trying to change it to suit the time that we are living in right now. Because if you even talk of the computers that we are using now, colleagues, if you talk of computers, because we're talking of communication here. Communication have been there. We talk of writing. Writing have been there. But this communication that we're talking about and writing that we're talking about now started long before, when the primitive people were using stones to write on and to write with. They were drawing, because they were communicating with those drawings, because in those drawings, there were lots of words attached to the drawings that they were sharing. So if we can use, therefore, this IKS and make sure that we use it well, it should make a difference in our learning. I can really assure you that one. Moving forward, without wasting any time, moving forward, I will look at the application of this IKS in science concepts. For an example here, I've referred to food processing. When you talk of food processing, you are not talking something new. But in our grade 6 curriculum, one of the projects of our learners will be to maybe make a menu, or rather write down a menu, maybe of baking a cake or something else, where they are displaying the food processing. When you talk food processing, you talk in IKS, you talk of cooking, you talk of making biltong, preserving food, and that has been there for some time. I remember I am from a farm here in Utinik. That is where I was born. I'm very much proud of that farm. The farm is called Kuseshonga. Eshonga is across Grace Refier. I used to see elders in that time where they would take water, and if they want it to be cold, to keep it cold, they would dig a hole and put it under the ground and cover it with soil. And a few days to come, that water is cool. And even meat, at times they used to do that. So I'm trying to say these things have been there for some time. And now when we give learners this task to do that food processing at home, they are going to get assistance from their parents, from their grandparents, from their great-grandparents, how to do the cooking. In some cases, if you want them to cook, And also, if you talk of fermentation, fermentation is one of the topics in science that learners have to know. But now when you talk of fermentation, you can think of making a traditional beer, which is umqombothi. That's where fermentation takes place. That's where yeasts have been used, but not the yeast that now we buy, but yeasts have been there that have been used to have this traditional beer ready, and also to make traditional wines like Iqhilika. You know, I would remember that there is Iqhilika that is made out of ubus, which is honey, and that is made out of itolofia, a prickly pear, and lots of other ingredients that are actually used to make Iqhilika, which is a traditional wine that our fathers and our forefathers used to drink. You know, in that case, fermentation actually took place. That's a process that took place to have that wine ready to be drunk, and it never killed anyone. But now fermentation is done in industries. And now, if you remember, during this lockdown, people would be doing their own liquor using this process. They now use the very traditional way of fermenting, the very traditional way of brewing liquor so that they can drink. I'm not actually condoning that, because now some of the things that they were using might be the things that are actually dangerous, you know, because they have not been tested, you know. But the things that our parents used then, they needed not to be tested, because they were actually from the plants. They were actually herbals, you know, herbal plants. They were actually digging out of the ground and to make these things. So there were few chances that they could have poisonous substances to be using to have their liquor of that time. Again, if you talk of factors affecting the rate of reaction, which is I think grade 11 or 12 topic, that has been there for some time, colleagues. That has been there for some time, because during those times, there were no stoves, no electrical stoves, and even no other stoves. But the stoves, they would make fire outside there, or in their kitchen. They would make fire, and in their making fire, they would not just take logs of wood to make fire. They would not start their fire using big pieces of wood. They would use some splints to start the fire. They use, in other words, they would have to increase the surface area of the material that they would be starting wood with, meaning that it means that for the rate of reaction, for the fire to start faster, it means that the surface area has to be much larger, has to be bigger, you know. So if you have more of these small particles to light and make fire, it means that your fire will start easy, you know. And you talk of even how they started, was there were not even matches then. So they would take two stones and make friction, rub them against each other to start the fire, and have something that is woolly. Once they start getting the spark, and then they would bring that closer to the spark, and that itself actually starts the fire, you know. So that is the indigenous knowledge that has been brought forward to us now, you know. And lastly, about this application, I have got a cutting that I've taken out of CAP's document here, where it talks about lightning strike. This one is actually sort of a static electricity, you know. If you look at this part that I have just highlighted there, a thundercloud becomes charged by the rubbing together of air and water particles moving past each other in the atmosphere. This is how a thundercloud starts. But now, you know, when you talk of lightning, here we are talking of lightning. our people would say, or even people are killed for being accused of making lightning, you know. Hence, before I said that this thing of teaching indigenous knowledge system might be saving lives, might be saving, it's a matter of life and death in other people. If you look at the rural areas, lots of our parents, lots of our great grandparents are being killed for being accused of witchcraft, you know. But if we can maybe teach our learners science, and maybe they can be enlightened as to maybe some of the things that they believe our parents can do, they are really impossible to take place. Because when you talk of lightning, lightning is likely to happen in certain areas and where it can be dangerous. So if we can teach our learners as to, in this area, this is the area where lightning is really likely to happen at any times, at any time. The areas where lightning can take place more than 200 times, or even at least 200 times in a year. You know, it can strike more than 200 times in a year. So if that area was the area where our people live, our parents would have died a long time ago, you know, because they would be killed. Because when somebody dies because of lightning, then they would be accused of being witches, you know. Again, in this portion that I've highlighted, I just wanted to show you as to how CAPS wants us to incorporate IKS. Looking at the second bullet there, at the bottom, this bullet says safety precautions should be considered during thunder and lightning storms. So that is a specific aim number 3 in our CAPS document. It's where you involve specific aim number 3, where now our learners have to think out of the box, or even now our parents or the learners' parents can assist now these learners as to say how they used to do when they wanted to stop lightning. I remember even now, my mother is still alive, colleagues. She's 84 now. My mother, when there is a strong lightning, she's the oldest in her family. When there is strong lightning and thunder outside, she would take a stick from the house and throw it outside and say whatever she feels is good to say at that time, you know. And when the lightning stops, we really believe that she impacted on that for the lightning to stop. So those are the things that we need to bring back, or rather to teach our learners, even our teachers, to make sure that they incorporate this IKS. In conclusion, my dear people, I am Richman Mzwakhe Festile. In CAPS document, there is this extract that I've taken there, which says, valuing indigenous knowledge system. That is one of the principles under which CAPS should be applied. Where now, when we apply, or rather when we value this indigenous knowledge system, we are actually acknowledging the rich history. We are acknowledging the rich history and the heritage of this country. And that is the heritage and the history that we have actually developed our teaching from. that we have developed the science that we are talking about today, and the heritage of this country as important contributors to nurturing the values contained in the Constitution. So if you are not implementing CAPS, or if you are not in a way incorporating IKS, you are actually disputing, or rather saying some or doing something that is not what you should be doing according to our CAPS document. I am Richman Mzwakhe Festile. I thank you very much. Thank you, Program Director. Thank you for your time. Thank you for everyone who listened to the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Festile. Thank you, Mr. Richman. That was mouthful. One can say and understand the passion that we're having on the topic. You've shared quite a lot that we need to consider and we need to think of. But quickly, in short, trying to reflect on some of the important points that we've touched on. You told us some important points on what a quality education is, and we've appreciated that. And that is being recognized and affirms, its critical role is being recognized and affirmed by the, CAPS, which ensures that it is part of our education system. Also, one other point that I've appreciated is you emphasizing that indigenous science vis-a-vis modern science, these two mustn't, compete and come into conflict, but instead they must complement each other, and that was a great point. Then you went on to talk, on some of the examples, that are part of the IKS concepts. You made quite a few examples using, for example, umqwayido, biltong. We all understand that during the period of back when our fathers were going to the mines and all of that, they made these things, long way to the mines seeking employment. And then you also touch on ukusela, making traditional beer. We know that we don't wait for December when we have initiation schools only. Almost every weekend in a certain home, there will be umselenzi, and this will be made. And you touch on, food processing, cooking, which is happening almost every day, whether you're poor or rich, you end up in a kitchen almost every day to make some food. And you go to poor homes, you will see how poor families make meals to ensure that they have something to eat, and you will be amazed, of the kind of IKS that comes out from that process. Using it and you touch on making fire. Up to this day, there are places that are not electrified, and those people have to use their indigenous knowledge to ensure that their livelihood continues, And it's also great that we have touched on the challenges that we are having, of understanding lightning, because now and again we find people being accused of witchcraft, and it has been one of the things that has never ever been proven in a court of law, when people are accusing, and especially old women that are witches, and somebody will cry that I have been bewitched and all of that. Most of us are from the rural areas, from the villages, and you'll find especially boys and men who will just go around the hut to pee, you know, not knowing that that is an invitation, you know, for a constant or ongoing lightning to hit the house. And when that strikes, you know, when the lightning struck, you know, then a certain woman that is not good looking, that is poor, will be accused of witchcraft. Okay, these are some, but let's check questions from people that are having questions. And we will continue monitoring some of the questions that will be coming. But one of the questions that I'm interested in is, you know, having touched on CAPS recognizing and affirms IKS, but to double check once again whether it is indeed part of our curriculum, and is it being taught, and in what way, if it is being taught, you know, and especially in primary and in primary schools, you know, and how does one know that this is an IKS that is being taught or dealt with? That's the first one. Thank you. If I can appeal that, you know, we try and be brief as possible with the responses.
Thank you. Okay, we do make sure really that it is actually being implemented. Like I talked about the example of food processing, that is where it should be applied. And also, if you look at, I think it's grade 4 curriculum, where learners have to design houses, you know, from the way Zulu people used to make their houses, and the Xhosa people and all the other people, you know, where now we were actually, it's being brought in the topic of insulation, you know, in which case we know that during to expose, or rather to show this insulation process, they would put grass onto the roof, which is thatching. They put grass onto the roof. So that is the way of using this thing that we are talking about, IKS. And lastly, the question of food processing. Well, now we are talking smoking. We are smoking the meat now, like smoked beef and whatever, you know, where you put meat into smoke. That has been there for some time. We know that we used to have even umbona, you know, that is a traditional knowledge that has been there forever. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Another question that came through is, what is the link between Indigenous knowledge system and science education? You know, from what you have said in your presentation and the answer that you have just given, you know, already touches on that. I think we need to skip that one. 2, Indigenous knowledge system varies from culture to culture. And this one wants to know if there is any evidence of universal indigenous knowledge that can inform quality education.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. According to CAPS, there won't be a universal one, because as we all know that we are coming from different worlds, you know. Like for example, in our schools right now, we have people from other countries, you know, from the nearest Zimbabweans, Nigerians, who are attending our schools. But they've got their own way of understanding the science that, or rather the concept that we are talking, relating to their indigenous knowledge, according to the region that they are coming from, you know. So it really depends. There is no blanket form of indigenous knowledge system. It depends, as I said, it's from the different traditions, from the different cultures, from the different areas, from the different environmental area that comes from, that a person comes from. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And another question wants to check what kind of policies and strategies should be in place for the successful implementation of IKS in our education system? Are there policies? Are there strategies? What is the Department of Education be? I mean, what is it that they are doing to ensure that we successfully implement it? Can you mute your mic? Unmute your mic.
Thank you very much. This technology. Okay, the policy that we are talking about is the CAPS policy. That is the one that leads us, you know. And if somebody is not following CAPS policy, I don't know what one would be following. But the strategies is we are here as subject advisors to guide our teachers, to train our teachers, to workshop them, to make sure that they, in fact, to support them and monitor that this CAPS is actually applied or is implemented accordingly. That is the strategy. During the workshops that we attend, or we even call our teachers, we are trying to in a way enforce the implementation of CAPS, or that means therefore the incorporation of IKS. That is the strategy that we can use, and yeah, that will be all that I can think of right now. Thank you.
Yeah. Then, as a follow-up to that, are there any challenges that we are faced with? You know, as challenges that are associated with the incorporating of IKS? What challenges are there?
I must really say that there will always be challenges with IKS. The challenges would be teachers, or not all teachers understand IKS itself. You know, as I said, this IKS is a very vast topic itself. You know, so not all teachers are really comfortable what we mean when we talk of this IKS. So it really means that we need to do more and make sure that it is actually implemented correctly. What else can you just add? Okay, just expatiate on the question one more. There's something that I'm missing that I wanted to talk about.
No, we're checking if there are any challenges that are being faced in terms of implementing or incorporating it as part of the mainstream curriculum.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, the challenges are always there, colleagues. The challenges in implementing, they are not only there for our teachers, they are there in the science fraternity itself. The science fraternity have got challenges about the implementation of IKS. You know, the other people would fear if they implementing IKS, the things that they normally think or people would think are original to the people that have innovated them or invented them would really be revealed that this thing is not new anyway. This thing have been there for some time. So the most challenge, if you talk about our teachers and the implementation of IKS, it means that it's the understanding and maybe the importance of incorporating this IKS and how they should be asking questions that ask learners to implement. Because if you implement according to CAPS or specific aim number 3, if you ask questions relating to that specific aim, you are really digging for the information that is born in IKS. So teachers are still struggling, I would say, in implementing specific aim number 3 in CAPS. Thank you.
Okay. One other question of interest, especially coming from our side, is that if you look currently at the university level, at the tertiary level, there are people that are already, specializing on IKS, especially postgrad studies. You've got people that are even doing PhD, then with regard to basic education, then, what is it that will assist and ensure that the particular kid, is in line to follow a, um, a course, a degree in IKS? What could be the basic requirements, because, for example, we know that the kind of school that we came from, if you want to follow a field in math and science, I mean, in science, we have to do math and science and biology. If you are doing the general stuff like history and all of that, then will be a teacher, a lawyer, and all of that. And then there will be commercial stream and technical stream, But what about this one that has developed an interest now and want to follow a career in IKS? What would be the kind of subject that the person will need to focus on?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mzwakhe. In this, I think as basic education, we are not the ones who will be bringing the requisitions for higher grade. I mean, for higher education. It will be higher education. It will be higher education that will be bringing those requirements for the studies that they are offering in their universities. So, but what I would say we are doing to assist is to teach it, But as the learner graduates to go to higher education, which is to universities, it means that the learner would get the interest of a certain topic. And then in that topic, a learner would maybe gain in interest now of saying, IKS is what I should be specializing on to further my interest in this topic. As I say, IKS is not only in natural sciences. IKS might be there for history, for that matter, might be there for mathematics, for whatever subject. One could be studying, one could be implementing IKS in any other subject. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, we will continue inviting our participants to pose some questions, to type them in the Q&A before we wrap up. Maybe one or two last questions if we don't get more questions. The first one, you touch on it a bit, where you'll find that especially back home in rural areas, you've got our people doing rondavels and utlande and all of that without any basic knowledge of science and construction and mathematics and all of that. But those houses are able to stand the test of time, And look at the rondavel, with at the center of it, there will be that, holder that ensures that, and
the pillar.
When is our mainstream education recognizing that kind of, education and taking it in, taking note of it and ensuring that when kids are being examined, for example, that kind of science that is coming from the rural background is recognized as part of the mainstream education. Instead of coming up with examples, I used to interact a lot with teachers when the kind of people that create math and science questions, that they will pose questions, that are more of, if I may say, European based, as if they don't have a rural background and all of that. I'm not sure if you're getting my question.
Okay, I think I can get a little bit of what we are trying to get here. The only way that I can respond to this, you are asking now for sort of a specialization of some sort to a person who's not, okay. I would say this is how far the education can go. The depth of this IKS can only be done. You'd remember that every subject and every topic in our level in basic education, we just do it to a certain extent, just to give learners a basic knowledge of this concept that is going to be broadened up further when they specialize in it in the universities. So for us in basic education, it is only to just give you the spade work, you know, the groundwork, as to say, this is what you will be doing. Now, when you have decided on the choice you want to follow, on the career that you would want to follow, or you make yourself a better person out of, then you are going to choose from what we are giving you in basic education. And in higher education, they are going to take it further. And you even specialize. For an example, if you talk natural sciences now, and which is actually spread out, split into, when you go further, it splits into physical sciences and life sciences. You split it further in, when you get to university, into physics, chemistry. You split it further and further and further and further. So it goes with the specialization, what one chooses. But for us, it's only to do the groundwork, and we don't get deeper. Otherwise, it will take many subjects that we should be having in basic education. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. We are still inviting questions from our participants in all platforms. Last one, and out of interest, must the IK be linked or be seen to be related to rural, uneducated, older people only? Because whenever we refer to IK and IKS, we always, go back to the rural people, to the villages, to uneducated, Abantu Bembola, Maqaba, and all of that, Must it be linked or be seen to be related to them only?
That's a very much interesting question, my brother, I must say. It really, in most cases, we refer to it like that. But in answering that, I would tell you this. We are now, I guess, in the fourth industrial revolution. In centuries to come, at the rate at which the revolution changes, we will be in the 10th revolution, 10th industrial revolution, in which case the knowledge that we are having now in the fourth industrial revolution will be the IKS in that time. In 100 years to come, this knowledge that we say it's a civilized knowledge, in 100 years or more to come will be, or even lesser, might be the IKS of that time. So it is not really the knowledge that we should be learning from our elders per se, but it's a knowledge from the areas that we are living in, as I said before, the environment, the way we are interacting, like in the villages, they're still using the information. They're still doing things their way that we are not doing in the townships or in locations, as it were. But that information, to me, it's an IKS, because it is not, most of the information is not documented, but it can be an IKS information. So I agree with you. Really, we take it in the wrong way, where we believe that it should only be the information that we get it from people that have been there for some time. Thank you, my brother.
Thank you, Mr. Festile. Thanks. This topic is very big. If you Google the Northwest University, you know that quite a lot of them that are in this field. Seeing that there are no questions that are coming up, I'll give you an opportunity to say your concluding remarks.
Okay, thank you very much, my brother. Thanks for the opportunity that you have given me to talk to you. And I wish to thank SAASTA for their wonderful job to educate the people of South Africa and Africa, in fact, in large, and maybe the world as well, because now, since you say this is on Facebook, it could be, there are lots of people that will be accessing it. So I wish to thank you for the job you're doing. You know, you need to do more on this, especially the relationship that I talked about earlier between the education, the science subject advisors, especially, as well as the SAASTA. You know, that can breed a lot of information for us to share with our educators. And we are looking forward to the end of COVID so that we can even visit we can have a live, or rather the SAASTA festivals as we normally have. Thank you all. Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks, Mr. Festile. Thanks, Richman. You are welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it. That was Mr. Richman Festile from the Department of Education in Gqeberha. We call it Gqeberha now, in the Eastern Cape. Which is part of the Nelson Mandela Bay municipality. Yeah, keep on watching this space or visit the National Arts Festival website or Google then SAASTA Africa for more webinars. There's, you know, we'll continue having this space, and I think, coming webinars will be posted on their website. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.